we're ready. Dr. Terry King. I'm excited you're here.
I'm certainly glad to be here, Nolan. This is an exciting thing for me also.
Yeah, it is. Well,
Yes.
Prepping myself for today, I told him a while ago, everyone, that this is the King Springs man right here. And I told him that I typically bring a case of water, divvy it out, and send some home with everyone. And I'm doing an interview with King Springs himself, and I forgot your case at my house this morning. So fortunately, I had a bottle left over in my car from probably several days ago. And but anyhow, that's it. But I'm glad you're here.
Well,
It's going to be a good conversation. There's so
exciting.
much.
I had the opportunity, Jay, my son that runs King Springs, as you know, he said, look at this, and he was showing me Spotty Dog. And
Yeah.
I thought, oh my goodness, look at that. It was fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, we love it. You know, Richard, he's a big proponent of King Springs, and we all are. Everybody that drinks it, they love it. But a few weeks ago, you were telling me the quality difference between your bottle versus, other people's bottles of water. And but Richard, one of the big reasons they love theirs, I mean, it's local water, your springs and refineries, whatever you want to call that. Your operation is here local from your ranch here in West Monroe. Is it West Monroe or Calhoun?
West Monroe. It's actually in Calhoun, but we use West Monroe address, but it's in West Washita. Yeah.
So, but we're in Monroe now. How long did it take you to get here this morning? 15 minutes? 20 maybe?
I'm sorry?
How long did it take you?
Well,
15?
It's 9. Our house is 9 minutes from our medical office.
Yeah, so it didn't take you long at all. So, but local water. But if you listen, there's a little bit there if you hit it just right, but there's not much. And so when you're in the deer stand or you're turkey hunting or whatever, especially like this past spring, you put this in your turkey vest, whether you sit on it or not, there's not much crinkle, not what you're used to. And so,
well, that was one of the things. Jay, my stepson, and I call him my son because he's been with me since he's 12 years old, designed that bottle. But I said the one thing we want to have is a bottle that you could hold, and I thought it was a 25-gram bottle. I think it was originally, but I think the new vendor it's about a 23-gram bottle, and when you feel those really crinkly bottles, those are probably 5 grams, 8 grams.
Yeah.
So that bottle will stand the test of time right there.
Yeah.
All the squeezing you want to do.
Well, it is very likely that this bottle right here is probably does not have King Springs water in it. It probably has some of the other King Springs, or it's not the original King Springs. It's probably the King Springs in the 5-gallon thing that we have that I just keep filling it up because, like I said, these bottles, they really do just keep from throwing them away. I mean, they last they'll last longer than glass.
And then the design, we looked at a lot of bottles across the United States, and the design is that bottle's trademarked. Is really we wanted that to be, if you walked up to the dispenser or the vendor machine that had different drinks in there, we wanted that bottle to stand out, and I think it's proven to stand out.
It has. Well, and we were even talking about getting possibly, I know nothing's for sure, but possibly like a custom spotted dog wrapper.
Yes.
Or label for this, and that would be cool. I told the guys, and I told you, I was like, I can't speak on their behalf, but I'm sure when I go back to them, they would be all for it. And of course, they were.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this to Jay that we probably ought to do something like that. Now he's got his boat pretty loaded right now, but I think in the future we'll certainly entertain something on that order. We've done it, other labels for other businesses, banks, and so on. Yeah. So I don't think it's improbable at all.
So do y'all do the graphics and all this? Who does that for y'all?
You'd have to ask Jay. All of the graphics they're done locally. Yeah, I know that, and I've been to their office. Well, I'm not sure. The one that did our website, I'm not sure that's one and the same to our website, but anyway, it's all done locally, and they do the covering for the trucks and everything also. Yeah.
Well, when it talks to being speaking of locally, like a local hero, a lot of people think of you, and I know you don't think of yourself as that way at all. You're just a normal old cat that born and raised here. But there's a lot of people that really respect all the stuff you've done. And I know we kicked off the podcast talking about water, but that's that's just water. I mean, it's great that y'all are doing that, and just the quality of it, and it's something local. It's creating jobs, and I mean, it's putting West Monroe out there even more so. But the stuff you've done, and just as a doctor and as a heart doctor specifically, that's really what I wanted to kind of get in. I mean, you have a book coming out. You've done all kind of stuff. You were telling me you were overseas. Were Sweden, or where were you?
I've been in. I've traveled to 5 different countries to talk. I've turned down a number of other because I thought they might be a little too dangerous in the world setting. But Nolan, I've given major talks in 17 states, some tens and tens of talks in 5 different countries around the world, traveling. And I've been lucky to be able to do that. And that's been primarily, of course, related to the invention that I did. The actual first procedure was in 1975. It'll be the 50th year anniversary next year. But that's been the springboard. A lot of people may not know that's been the springboard for a lot of other devices that we're using today. It was the first time anybody had ever done something inside the heart to fix the heart without open heart surgery. But now just think of the stents that go in your vessels, or your coronary arteries, or plugs you put in like your left atrial appendage, the Watchman. All of those are based upon the original invention, a plug sort of device. And it was really, the story behind that was really interesting because I was finishing my fellowship at Duke in cardiology, and I thought, well, we were beginning to do some interventional stuff at that time, and this is in the late 60s and early 70s, and 2 doctors at Philadelphia Children's developed a technique of making a hole with a balloon in the blue baby's heart, so that the blood would mix in the upper half, and they wouldn't have to have surgery, which had a high mortality, and that was quite successful. So I was thinking, well, if we can do things like that, why can't we fix hearts with catheters? And everybody kind of laughed at me and thought it was a pretty funny story. And one of my fellow fellows said, "Terry, have you seen the psychiatrist lately?" I said, "Well, no, but I think this can be done." But nobody believed it could be done. And went to the Air Force, and to show you how God's had his hand in this all along, it so happened that I was stationed at Lackland Air Force Base at Wilford Hall, and the surgeon, one of the other surgeons stationed there, was a friend of mine, Bob Klein, that was trained at Duke in surgery. And we were friends, and he called me one morning about 4 o'clock in the morning and said, "Terry, I've got this child coming from Wiesbaden, Germany, and the child had hydrocephalus, and he had a connection from a catheter to the brain, and then it emptied into the heart to keep the pressure down. It's called a Pudens catheter. And they'd had recent surgery to revise it, but about 2 days after surgery, the doctors noticed that the spinal fluid was leaking out of the neck incision where they'd connected the upper and lower catheter, and it had broken apart, and it floated into the child's heart. And the problem was that only 1 millimeter of that catheter could be seen on x-ray. There was about 16 millimeters, about 11 centimeters of catheter floating around in his heart, just whipping around his heart. And I grew up on a ranch in Texas and learned to snare snakes early on, and Bob heard me talk about these stories, and he said, "Do you think you could snare that thing?" And I said, "Well, we'll give it a try." And that had happened 4 previous times in the medical literature, and all had gone to open heart surgery to get that thing out of their heart. So I had to build it because we didn't have those catheters. So I built a snare loop, and I passed it through. The child got there in Wilford Hall, and we x-rayed, and sure enough, it was there. So we took him to the cath lab, and long story short, in about 45 minutes, he was ready to go back to his room because I'd fished it out of his heart. So that just reaffirmed that the things are possible. Back when I was 8 years old, Nolan, I prayed to God that if He'd let me be a doctor, I would be the best doctor I could be with every patient, and I would want to treat them like they're my family. And so I prayed about this, yet still nobody thought it could be done. And towards the end of my Air Force stay, I was interviewing around the country, and one morning I was in bed thinking about this, and I said, why can't that be done? I said, what's small enough to pass into the heart inside a catheter, but when I open it, it's big enough to close a hole? And I thought of it, umbrella. And you've seen the catheter on the wall. You've seen the device on the wall. So shortly thereafter, I interviewed in Tulane for chief of cardiology, and it was a big town, and I came back and I said, I'm just not going to a big town. But John Ochsner called me, the founding father's son, and said, in his New Orleans accent, he said, Dr. King, we want you to come back and see the Ochsner Clinic. And I said, Mr. Ochsner, Dr. Ochsner, I don't know. I'm pretty country. So I don't know. But I said, please come back. And my chairman at Texas, who advised me and got me to go off to do additional training, said, always look at a job if it's a legitimate job. So I made the trip back to New Orleans and went in and during the interview process, I met this surgeon, Dr. Noel Mills, and he's a Mississippi chap like me, and he catches alligators and stuff, and he grew up in the wilderness. So we had a lot in common the first time we met. And I said to him, to a surgeon now, because you're going to take business away if you do this, I said, what do you think about fixing hearts with catheters? And he jumped up and ran over to a desk, and when he was training in New York, had been trying to do something for holes in the lower half in adults that had infarct VSDs. And he said, it can be done. So you know where I went. I went to the Ochsner Clinic. And with God's help and a lot of help from people at the Ochsner Clinic, and Dr. Alton Ochsner Sr., the founding father's support, Noel Mills, of course, and then John Ochsner, we were able to do that. And it changed the world of cardiology, because we did a series of 5s, and we were doing it without echo, without CT, without MRI that you have all today. But it broke the water and proved it could be done. Now there are 13 or 15 or 16 different devices, actually more than that, but ASD devices in the world.
All based off your original design. And 79, you said?
75.
75.
Mm-hmm. More than, probably somewhere between 500,000, no, at least 500,000, because we can get those numbers, but we don't know about the third world. It's done in tens and tens and tens and tens of countries around the world now. It's a daily procedure. So, and when we did it, it made national news, international news, and it made NBC news. And John Chancellor on the national news said, Dr. King said, and I didn't say this because nobody knew this, that the procedure might be an outpatient procedure or something to that effect. And I didn't say that because we didn't have any earthly idea of what was after one patient. But prophetically, it's an outpatient procedure today. He was correct.
Wow.
It's an outpatient procedure.
So do you have to go in and actually do open heart surgery? I mean,
no, it's all done from the leg.
Okay, so that's what I was figuring when you said the outpatient. I figured it wasn't near as critical as opening someone's chest open.
You just, we made an incision in the legs because we had heart-lung standby when we first did this, because if something went awry, there was no way to save the patient's life with open heart surgery. Fortunately, we never had to do that. But now you do it percutaneously. You insert a needle and put a sheath in there, and you slide the catheter through the sheath, and you just have a little puncture hole in your leg.
So it's following up. You just insert it in a vein,
it just follows vein in your leg, and you just follow it by fluoroscopy. I can see it, and I can move it up there. And if you go to the website, our website is part of that. When the Louisiana Legend thing was done, that's the actual film from NBC News. Wow. In April 1975. We found that cut of film, and we have the whole thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, But you just do it. It's done during cardiac catheterization.
Yeah. So how does that work in 70? So the first procedure was in 75.
Yes.
Okay. So when was it invented, so to speak? What year was that? I mean, is that still 75?
Yeah, 75. But we invented the device and the technique of how to do it all at the same time.
Okay. So that was 75. So is that something, did you patent that?
The clinic did patent that, but the patents run out.
Yeah.
It's a 7-year thing.
Yeah.
And really and truly, I wouldn't really want to patent it, to be honest about it, because I would want it to be universally available. But most any major organization will patent something like that.
Yeah, and I figured so. I'm not saying it's a selfish thing, but speaking openly, it almost sounds kind of selfish if someone was to keep going and keep trying to hold that patent for themselves just so they could use it or just so they can license it out or whatever.
And they later sold the patent.
Yeah.
They later sold it. It's interesting because I've thought about this. I had the opportunity to spend a day with Jonas Salk, who invented the polio vaccine, and had dinner with him. And, he did not patent. He'd invented that when he was at the University of Pittsburgh doing the research to develop the polio vaccine. And he said, you can't patent the sun. I shouldn't patent this. And he's right. Something that can make so many people's life better really probably shouldn't be patented.
Doing the Lord's work.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So when before you went to New Orleans, were you still living in Texas?
I was in the Air Force at Texas. I grew up on a ranch in South Texas, went to University of Texas. I ran track at the University of Texas. And then after that, I went to medical school. I got interested in entomology. How I got to Louisiana was I used to come up and spend my summers with my Uncle Truman Thomas, who was an entomologist and owned the anti-pest company in Shreveport. And I got interested in cotton entomology. And I kind of wavered a little bit. But when I was working on my master's, one of the professors said, "Terry, I want to show you something." And it was a film of a doctor who was trying to develop the heart-lung machine back then in the 50s. And that just reignited my interest in medicine. And he said, "You need to go to medical school." And I was really kind of deviating away from that. But again, God has had his hand in this all the way. I wished I could take credit for this, but I can't. I can't take credit for it. So many people have helped, and especially God has helped.
Yeah, that's a testimony.
Yeah.
Talking about that. Well, the text, I wanted to get back to you. Caught my attention. I mean, you caught my attention with it all. But when you said that you used to snare snakes.
Yeah, well, where I grew up, we had basically the same variety of snakes, four venomous snakes there. And we had my father and some of his friends one of them was they were real cowboys. And he used to pick a snake up by his tail and pop them and break their neck and kill them. But one thing that we learned to do was snare frogs and lizards and snakes, and every now and then we'd get a bad snake in that snare. I grew up on the black gumbo lands of South Texas, and my brother were barefooted and running everywhere, water moccasins and you name it. The rattlesnakes.
Had big diamondbacks out there?
No, they're diamondbacks there, or timber rattlers, but diamondbacks there, but we didn't have them on our ranch, but we certainly had water moccasins and copperheads.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
Them copperheads, them sungons are bad.
Huh?
Them copperheads, they are bad.
Well, they're interesting. I kind of like the copperhead, to be honest about it, as a physician, because its bite is the least venomous bite that you can have of the so-called pit vipers. The worst, of course, can be a big rattlesnake bite. So I treated all of those when I was as a physician. I became an intensivist along with a cardiologist, critical care medicine. I used to treat about 8 to 10 snake bites a summer.
Really?
Yeah, for years.
And that was in South Texas?
Actually, it was in Louisiana mainly.
Okay.
Yeah, mainly Louisiana.
Yeah.
Mainly
so here,
Louisiana.
what did most people get bit by here? Cottonmouths? Water
Cottonmouths are big ones. You have timber rattlers here, canebrake rattlers. The western diamondback's not over here.
Right.
I've never treated one of those. If you get to East Texas, you could get in the timber and the diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've killed about a 25-pound timber rattler on our ranch. Yeah.
Here in West Monroe?
Yeah, at the ranch we were clearing the woods and had a big wood pile. I wasn't there, but my son was there, and he when they cut the head off with the bulldozer, he held it. He's about a little under 6 feet, but he held it up like this, and it still touched the ground. It was big as my arm. I got to see pictures of it.
I did not know timber rattlers got that big.
Yeah, they can get big.
I did not know that. And I've killed my fair share of snakes.
If you're hunting them,
well, that's what I'm saying. Especially, you're doing summer food plots or whatever you're doing, even if it's not deer, you're just outside. You're going to run across cottonmouths, and then probably the second most common snake you're going to run across, like venomous snake anyways, it's probably going to be a copperhead, depending on where you are, like around this area. And then third, you're going to see, especially springtime turkey hunting, you're going to run across some timber rattlers. But usually, not usually, every one I've ever seen have been less than 2 foot and a lot smaller.
Yeah, well, the ones I've killed on the ranch have tended to be less than 3 feet.
Yeah.
But this one was in a wood pile and had been there probably for a good while because they eat those rats. And I've heard of some bigger than that. And there was a story about one down somewhere in Natchitoches or somewhere. It was up under an old building forever and ever and ever eating those rats, and they were huge when they killed them.
Yeah,
they killed them. But we were, my wife and my stepson were in one wood pile cleaning it up and reburning it, and I went back to bulldoze it. And when I was bulldozing the pile, I noticed there was a snake curled up upside down. It's just his belly. So I got off the bulldozer and took it up, turned it over with a stick, and it was a timber rattler about this long, and it had been in that pile. And my wife was in there fooling with it, and I thought, how lucky can we be?
Man.
But the people working on the ranch, they've killed a number of rattlesnakes.
Yeah. You remember that outdoor show, TK and Mike?
No.
You've never seen that?
What? No.
It's a comedy show. It's like little movies they made, and it was based off skits of these two rednecks. I think it's probably, I may be wrong. They're going to say the 90s, maybe. I don't really remember when it was, but I mean, it's like VHS tape, as And but they would go out and turkey hunt. My favorite one was TK and Mike turkey hunting. And they went out there, and the type of stuff that the whole show is based off on was them just being goofy and doing dumb stuff. But like they were out there trying to call a turkey in, and one of the guys, he's yelping and ow, 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 and he sucks the diaphragm call. He chokes on it. It's fake, but he chokes on it. And then the turkey it stops gobbling. So the other guy, I think it was TK, got choked by it, and then Mike goes over there and starts beating on his back, just. And then the turkey starts gobbling and coming in, and as soon as the turkey gets there, the guy choking TK or whichever one it was, he's and it shows the turkey running off. And they filmed that, if I'm not mistaken, Will Primo's, they filmed that over in Mississippi. A lot of those shows over there, but it's just good comedy stuff. But TK and Mike, they talking about the rattlesnakes and being up under houses and wood piles and stuff. They went and there was an old abandoned house. They went in they were trying to kill the turkey. And this turkey would strut every morning or evening or whatever time it was. This turkey would come by this old abandoned house. So they were going to go sit in this house waiting for this turkey to slip by, this big Tom. And they go in there and it's pitch black dark, and they start hearing some stuff and they trip on something. It sounds like a lamp falls or something like that. Yeah. And they have a cigarette lighter and they light it up, and it just lights them up. And the other guy lights it up and he's like, I don't know what this is. It don't sound good, or I don't remember what this is, something like that. And next thing you know, it's hundreds of rattlesnakes inside this house, and they all start rattling. Anyhow, it made me think of that. I didn't know if you've ever seen it.
Well, I used to quail hunt when I was in the Air Force, and we'd go out near Coyote, Texas, and it was in the early fall, and the chairman of the department, he was Dr. Johnson. It was a Southern boy from Virginia. And we were hunting, and we were wearing those steel leggings because there's just lots of them. And we jumped some quail, and I was shooting a double barrel shotgun, and I hit one of them, and it went down. And I shot another one, but I just winged him. So I was looking for him, and there we were really careful because there's the diamondbacks, and I saw one draped across a four-strand barbed wire fence, touching on both sides. That's how big it was on one of the trips there. So I was walking along, taking my gun, moving the sagebrush out of the way, and I moved this bush, and I was about to take the next step, and there he was, a diamondback, sitting there, never rattled. He was up, his head was up, and I was probably too far for him to strike at me right then, but it scared me to death. And I shot, and I hit under him. The first time I shot, I flat into the ground, raised him a little bit. Then I shot him the next time, and Howard Johnson said, "Terry, you got into a rattlesnake?" And I said, "I sure did, but he's not going to bother anybody now." It scared me. I took that one home and slid it across the floor. Of course, my wife wasn't real happy with that.
Inside the house.
Yes. He was dead, but it rattled. As you know, it makes a little noise as it slides across the floor.
Oh.
I got in trouble for that, I have to tell you.
I imagine that's probably not the only thing you've gotten in trouble for.
There's probably not smart.
There's no telling how many fish
smart.
you've cleaned at the kitchen sink or squirrels you've cleaned at the sink.
I have to say, Nolan, my family was of Tom Brokaw's Greatest Generation. They came from that. And they took us to the country as young boys. I was going to the second grade, and my brother was going to first grade. And we both look back on that as the best. I think we were there probably right at 9 or 10 years, enough went through the teens, that it changed us to make us much more appreciative. Of course, my parents had a lot to do with this, of the earth, the land, the beauty in the sky, the birds, everything. It just changed us. And I think that time has more to do with the person I am than any other time in my life. Because everybody talks about Dr. King, and I say, well, that's just, he's just a country doctor, and everybody gets a big giggle out of that. But that's really how I feel.
Yeah.
That's really how I feel. I grew up that way. I live on a ranch. And I was so fortunate to have those parents and the professors that saw something in me that I didn't really see and would push me. So that's the reason. That's the reason I often say, thank you so much. I'm a little bit like Tom Brady, the famous football player. He gets a lot more credit than he deserves, because if the other 10 people didn't show up, he would never be known. Yeah. That's how I feel. If all those people hadn't helped me, I would have never been known. Yeah. So anytime somebody says that, I thank them, but it's God's grace and a lot of other people's help.
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot easier for God to use people that have the attitude like yourself, versus someone who is very proud of themselves and makes it all about themselves. It's again, what you're doing and what you've done. It's a lot more than just 500,000 lives saved because of an instrument that you created. You're touching a lot of people. Like I said, my youngest sister, Molly Claire, she I know when I talked to you before, you're like, we've had, how many did you say, like 300,000 that you've seen? Is that what it was?
We don't really know, but it's in excess of 300,000 visits now.
Yeah, and is that just in the West Monroe?
No, that's my career.
That's your career.
My career. So but most of my career's been in Louisiana. Since '72.
Yeah, but out of all the people you've seen, one of the ones that you have is my sister Molly, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I ought to be ashamed for not remembering, but she had open heart surgery when she was young, and she's been coming to you, ever since. And I brought her to multiple. She's 23 and thriving. She's a financial advisor assistant at Merrill Lynch and just killing the game there, and she's doing great. But for that, I can't tell you how many times that we've been to your office before. And from the moment people walk in, they can tell that your doctor visits, it's a little bit different than what they're probably expecting or anything else. And so I told you time and time again, you have Jesus is right up here, and not far up under that is Dr. King. And I know a lot of people see you as a man of God and someone that really is here to do good work.
Well, I'm grateful for the man of God, and I'm grateful for being able to help so many people. It's my wife said, "Don't tell this story because it sounds a little bit arrogant." But I don't mean it to be arrogant. But about 5 years ago, a couple of my friends, we were at a world meeting on this side of the world in Las Vegas, where I was speaking. And they said, "We want you to come to our world meeting in Frankfurt, Germany." And I said, "What do you want me to talk about?" And they said, "We're just going to interview you. We're going to talk about your life." And they flew us there. And I went on the stage, and there were 900 doctors from 30 different countries. And we went through my inventions and my life. And at the end, Neil Wilson from England said, "Terry, what do you think is your greatest contribution?" And I said, that's an easy answer. It's what happens in my office every day. And I think you know this because you've been there. To be part of these wonderful families and to touch their lives and allow them to touch my life, which has made me much more determined to practice longer than I should have probably, because I think that as long as you can make a difference and you have a talent, I think it'd be a sin not to use that.
Yeah.
So that was my answer, and I think that's a great motivation. I've never really had a job. I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I have to show up for that.
Yeah. Sometimes it still turns into work, but it's doing what you're doing. I'm not smart enough to do that. I barely know how to hit the red record button on this camera and set all the lights.
You come talk to my office, they'll tell you I'm not very bright. Can't operate the phone.
That's all right, though. Well, so tell me, I know you got a big white binder right there.
Yes.
So you have a book coming out.
Well, we hope so. We were going to, it took us 6 years to write to my wife and I, Nancy. She's a lot smarter than I am. So it's called Hearts and Heifers. And we had a publisher, and Nancy was never favoring self-publishing. There are about 5 million books, I understand, are published, and about 4 million are by self-publishing. But she said we need to see if this is worthy. And we went through the beta readers, all the people, you get people to read it and get critiqued. But we sent it off to Kirkus, which is a big national review, and got an outstanding review. And then we sent it to Online Book Club to see, because we said, well, let's see if that's really true.
Yeah.
And we sent it to them, we got a 5-star review.
Wow.
So we decided to self-publish. In the last year, we've spent making preparation to send this to 500 plus literary agents to get us a publisher, and we're in the process of that right now. And so we want that to happen, and then help us get a publishing company. So hopefully in the next 6 months, we'll have all of that settled of where the publisher's going to be. And we've had some advisors, and they're pretty confident that that's going to happen. But it's got to happen, and we'll see. I don't worry. I tell you, okay, that's not true. That's what I say. I don't worry about it. Of course, I'd like something like this to be published, because it's got a lot about God, and if you have the faith and you have the energy and you want to do something, with His help, you can do it.
Yeah.
It's in that book. And so I'd like for that to go out there, so people somebody says, well, that's not possible, but in your heart you know it's possible. With God's help, it is possible. So that's one reason I'd like for the book to get published right there. But yes, it's a lot of cowboy wisdom, and it's a lot about how I grew up, but the real thrust of the book is thanking the people that helped my life and my career, starting from the very beginning to today, and about how God has a plan for you if you just let Him do that. And it's really, I have to tell you, so many steps have been made that I wouldn't have made because somebody else said, you need to do this, Terry. Mm. So I think that would be helpful to so many people, to give them the courage. Yeah, I'll show you. I can do this, and do it.
Yeah, we hear that all the time. You hear the stories where people don't feel like they're worthy to go and do something, and they end up just killing the game at whatever it is. Was just a lot of hard work and determination, but it does make it a lot easier. If it's just your your mental game being more on point, that when you feel like that you're created by a God that loves you and wants the best for you.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but you're involved with a community that has your back and they're supporting you. It's a lot easier that when you go to sleep at night, just to get some rest and wake up feeling refreshed in the morning. When I think that's just the biggest thing, is just like having not the biggest, but when you have a good community that has your back. And talking about the first thing you said about the book that you talked about is a lot of cowboy wisdom and your story and stuff like that, but thanking the people that helped get you where you are. Those people, they're critical, and we have to have them. And like I said, having a God that we believe in, that has our best interest in mind, there's a lot of peace that comes with that helps get you through a lot of the other hard times working to get yourself where you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know how you could. I have a saying: the greatest responsibility that you'll ever be given is the care of somebody's child. And to say that you could do that without God's help, I don't think it's done. But when you have to deal with life and death, and I did critical care medicine for 40 years in cardiology. I'm in my 57th year. We deal with life and death. And to say that the mortal man, can do that and expect what you get to see if you have God involved, I don't think that's really possible. I think God is, when the physician is willing, he can direct and improve the care. And that's been my experience.
Yeah.
That I've seen so many miracles, and I would pray, and the patient should have died, but the patient didn't die. So God's there. I'm not scared of dying. Yeah. Let me tell you, I know there's a God. I'd hate to leave my family, I'll have to be honest, but I'm not scared of dying.
Yeah.
I know He's there.
Yeah, well, don't die right now. You got a lot of people depending on you. Plus, who would your office employees, who would they make fun of for not knowing how to work a phone? So
right.
You got to give us.
They don't want me to die either.
Yeah. No. Well, I'm sure you talked and dealt with some of the top people in your field across the board. Do a lot of them believe in God like you do? Do a lot of people give credit like that?
There are a lot of them. And then there are some people that don't. I had a good friend that he was a heart surgeon, and he was talking to the patient, and it was up here, and this is a little bit of the Bible Belt, and the family said, "Thank God." And he said that God didn't have anything to do with that, and I was standing there, and I didn't interrupt him. But later on, I said, "George, God had everything to do with that. He let you be born. He let you have good parents. He gave you a talent. He sent you to a good school. Just think about it. He had a lot to do with that."
Yeah.
So, yes, there are some, but I think a lot of them, most of them, particularly in the Deep South.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a lot easier to see those miracles when you do believe that a doctor can go and come up with an invention with his manly hands, and he's able to do stuff on this earth and create things on this earth. When you think about God gave him the knowledge to do it, or the power, just even like I said a while ago, just the peace to fight that battle to get to that point and to go through all the schooling and everything else. And when you think about the doctors and the medicine and the other instrumentations that y'all use, to heal people, so to speak.
Yeah.
A lot of that, a miracle is not just coming. Just you wake up one day and your heart's healed. That's not the only way a miracle can happen.
And we pray for things, and sometimes those things don't happen the way they think they should happen. But in the end, most of the time, something good happens. And I think that some people when they see a physician, say, "Well, you're just a physician," and that's true. But if it's the right physician, his prayer will be every morning, "God, direct my thoughts and my actions, let me be your agent. And so God puts people here in any profession that are acting on his behalf if you just let it happen.
Yeah.
Just let it happen. So I think that fortunately I was lucky to have the right people in my career that said, go do this. And then when it was not what I really wanted to do at the time, to help me to get where I am. So I have to say that my humility is really sincere, because I have to credit that Dr. Mills, if I hadn't had Dr. Mills, for example, if I hadn't gone back for that second interview, probably never happened. Because he was willing to place his career on the line as a surgeon when that was an open heart surgical procedure. And he was criticized when it was successful because he participated in it. I was criticized some because the surgery was so safe, and here I was doing something that could be quite dangerous and even fatal, yet it wasn't.
Yeah.
And later is the norm. So it's not always easy. There's always changes are met with doubt and discussions, and sometimes violent opposition. So sometimes you just have to bow up and be a country boy.
Do you get a lot of opposition? I mean, right now I feel like that, and I'm not trying to go too deep into this.
Yeah.
I don't want you to give your opinion on something and people would be like, I ain't buying his book now because of something like that. So we're not going to go into the political side of it unless you just take us there. I don't want us to go there if you don't want to, but right now, just in the last few years, the pandemic and everything else that we've had, there's been a lot of distrust and I'm gonna say I'm not trying to turn this into a conspiracy theory, like tinfoil hat kind of conversation, but there's been a lot of doubt placed in doctors and everything else. On your end, do you get kind of held up, or do people in your line of work, so to speak, in the heart community, they try to push back on some of the stuff you're doing and try to push maybe towards certain?
Well, I guess because I've been here so long, there's not much pushing back for me. But the answer is there's always pushback. And I can tell you, in 1967, I treated or saw 16 cases of diphtheria. And I want you to find any doctor in the United States that can say that. Well, one, I've lived long enough to be outliving most of them.
I don't even know what that is.
But what I'm coming to is I was at Duke, and I was sent to Charity New Orleans to do infectious disease training, because it's one of the meccas because of the high density of many different types of illnesses. And right before I got there, DPT, you ever heard of DPT?
No, sir.
That's the shot your children's take every year. Diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus. That's the shot that you take. Everybody takes it. Well, most everybody takes it. So there were a lot of people when it came out said, no, I don't know. That's a government experiment. Some even thought it might be trying to kill them. And people didn't let their children have it. So we had a diphtheria epidemic.
What year was this?
1967 in Louisiana. And I was at Charity, and that doesn't happen anymore. Diphtheria is wiped out because of the shot, which everybody takes today, most people take today, not even thinking about it. So the answer there is, again, change is not always accepted. And sometimes it's good that you don't. But the single biggest factor that has helped you and I and all the people in the world to live the life we're living is immunization. It's the single biggest factor. And there's been a lot of factors in medicine, as you know. But people still have doubt.
Yeah.
Now, COVID's been pretty well knocked in the head. I've had COVID twice, and I've had the immunizations, and I still got it. But the long and the short of it, it changes your death rate. and changes your complication rate. Yes, can you have bad reactions? Yes, they're there. But in general, those things are really, truly historical changes in man's history.
Yeah.
So yes, you're going to see that. And go back to the heart-lung machine. It's done every day all over the world. John Gibbon invented that. I met him when I was at Duke, and he operated on 4 people with the heart-lung machine. 3 died. Mortality was 75%, and he was so distraught he never used it again. But other doctors went on and used it and perfected it, and now we have the benefit of that. So there's not always instant success, but big successes take a lot of persistence and belief and help of many people, and in my mind, God, too. I think you need him to help you. So yes, it's out there. I don't. Yes, that topic was discussed with me many times during the COVID, and I told them the same story. But I always left it up to them what they did. I would support them with what they did.
Yeah. That's good that you didn't, I guess, push it, and that's really all you can ask is just give the information that you believe and the information you trust. Give to them, let them make their own decision.
Well, we can't always cure, but we can always be sympathetic and empathetic and understanding and walk down the road with them, with the patient. And I think that's just important as if we could cure you, you know.
Yeah. What do you do for fun when you're not doing podcasts and writing books and going and all that, making water for millions of people to drink? What are you doing?
I'm a dreamer. When the water project came along, I met with my banker, and he's a dear friend, and he's always helped me. And he helped me build our restaurants and stuff. And he said, Terry, I don't think you ought to do this. Why? Because I was 83 years old. I don't blame him. My accountant said, Terry, I don't think you ought to do this. But I knew that it could be done. And so I started out like the pioneers do, collecting water with the spring box, and then I bought a little spring box and collected water, and we got it analyzed and blah, blah, blah. And it happened. And praise the Lord, it's going very, very well. So I'm trying to come up with some new things in ranching. We developed what was called Louisiana flavor, naturally raised beef with no antibiotics and no hormones. And what I'm really trying to do now is I would like to develop a system to raise hay where I can control the water. Now, you're going to say, Terry, that's not anything new, but I'm talking about do it electronically, have sprinklers in the ground that come up ever so often and you water the ground, and that it's fertilized when you're putting the water out, and do it all electronically. And working on this project, and may even involve some AI, artificial intelligence. And then it would change the hay industry of how you raise hay. If that's successful, it would change the hay industry. Because what we can't control is the rainfall.
Right.
And if I do this, the only thing I can't control is the rainfall again when I'm cutting hay.
Yeah.
But I can time it a little better.
Right.
So that's what I'm working on right now. And there's another big project that's a medical project that's another so-called pie in the sky. Yeah. So I'm a dreamer. My wife says, don't dream so hard, because she's the one that's got to make them happen. So I don't play golf. I have a camp up at Lake Claiborne, and we go up there and work and build our decks, and our relatives live up, have camps up there, and we have a great time. Of course, my family's important, and I love nature. I love to be in open territory. I think Northeast Louisiana is a great place. I mean, the people are great. the country's beautiful, and I've had more than one opportunity to leave, and just can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Yeah, that's the thing when you get, it's like a lot of people, you get out of high school and you can't wait to get out of here. You are burning rubber,
Yeah.
ready to leave. And if you do, it doesn't take very long and you realize how good that place actually was. And a lot of
Yeah.
it has to do with not necessarily the restaurants that are there or the fun activities or even the scenery. A lot of it has to do with the people.
Yeah.
And we got some dang
Yeah.
fine people
Yeah.
around here. We really do. The beef, that's one thing I forgot about. I didn't even think about talking about that today. Was all the beef and stuff that you sell, but you go to Max Fresh Market. I mean,
Yeah. So yes, and we've cut back on packaged beef because
Okay.
we're when we first started, we were going to raise registered animals. Then that's a really tough road to hoe. And then we got into raising naturally beef. Then the hay became an issue. People running out of hay, and you can see the trucks running all up and down the highways now. So what I've done in the last 12 months, we've sold a great part of our herd, not all of it. We still got cows, but we're going to go to where we can raise commercial hay, and then we're sure we got plenty of hay. And then we'll do what we did initially. We will raise them to wean weights and then ship them off to Texas, and then have naturally raised beef. And then they'll go, because they're naturally raised, so you get a premium for them. And then they go to some big slaughterhouse. So that's the way we're going to do it. But I'm trying to divide the ranch up that it's not all the eggs are in one basket.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, make it a more profitable operation.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, that's all you want. How important is that to go and have naturally raised beef? Or, you go to the grocery store and you can go and you can buy a pack of chicken thighs or whatever that's this big for what seems like a few dollars, $6, $7, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you can go and you buy a pack of chicken this big that's organic, no antibiotics, no other injections in them, and it seems like it's 3 or 4 times the cost for less chicken. Same way with beef, but
Yeah.
what you're doing, speaking on like your heart health, that's the biggest thing. How important is that?
Well, immunizations again are part of the beef industry, as you know. Hormones are part of the beef industry, and then raising truly organic beef, like no corn-fed components, that sort of thing, is very hard because the amount of beef you're going to grow, it's going to be leaner and maybe healthier, but fewer pounds probably fewer pounds. You have really lush grass, it can be pretty healthy beef. And then you lose them to infections and that sort of thing. So that's part of it, is that you cut your production quantity down. And when you mentioned that big package, how does that work? Volume driven. How's that King Springs work? Volume driven. So that's the difference. The volume is different.
Yeah.
So the price goes up.
Yeah. Have you heard of I think it's White Oak Pastures? I believe it's in Georgia. White Oak Pastures. It's
a ranch or something?
Yeah.
No, I've not heard of it.
It's there's this guy who has another podcast. I'll send it to you and send you like some little videos and like little footnotes and stuff on it. But he's had him on multiple times, and he talks about, and it's an older gentleman as well, and he talks about how I think his family, they've always been farmers. They've always or ranchers, farmers. They've always had that, and but they've always done the regenerative farming, and that's where I'm hoping that what I'm getting at is the regenerative farming. That's where you do inject them, and you have chicken houses where they're all living on inches of asphalt, so to speak, or dirt. It's not a good, healthy way. That's where you're talking about like the volume and like the feed lots. Like that's regenerative farming, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the opposite of that, I guess, whatever. He goes, it's a very clean operation, and his stuff is more expensive, but everything that you buy from them, the same thing like you're talking about. It's very, very clean. And he talks about the struggle that his family have had like for decades or whatever the timeline was, that they've always done it this way, to now it's a very, very clean operation. And even when you have a lot of rainfall, there's a video that you can see between his property and a neighbor's property. When all the water is running off of it, you can tell his property runoff looks just like this
Yeah.
King Springs water, and right there the runoff from rain on the other side, it looks like Darbone right now, just muddy chocolate
Yeah.
milk. And
Yeah, well, you have to protect nature, and you have to protect. You have to live with it, not necessarily own it. Necessarily, if you get my drift, the Indians really understood that. They lived with nature, and they didn't really alter it. Therefore, they left a lot of beauty for us to see. So, there's a lot of that. Technology helps too. For raising the beef, for example, we used ultrasound to measure ribeye sizes and the intramuscular fat. And we could, when a heifer came through that had a big ribeye size, by ultrasound, we put her back in the herd and then to improve our genetic breeding. So the farming is so much different now. When I was working the cotton fields, rows were wider. Now they're little old bitty rows if you look at them. Yeah. They're irrigating, usually a lot of ground irrigation, which will do less washing, those sorts of things. They're trying to use natural fertilizers. So it's entirely different, and it'll be different 10 years from now.
Yeah,
be different 10 years from now.
Especially with that awesome invention you're talking about of pop-up sprinklers, essentially for hay.
Well, it's interesting. Again, the people that helped us do our research and drill our wells, they're out of Mississippi, and I called them, and his name is Mitzler, and Eric Mitzler, and I said, Eric, I've got this idea. What do you think about it? He said, Terry, I was thinking about why don't more people do that? So what I've done, Nolan, I went and bought a pop-up device that's about this big. The ones you have in your yard about this big.
Right.
And David, I bought two of them. David took it. One of them put it at the end of one of our lot of water lines. We try to keep our cows out of ponds and stuff. We still have ponds and stuff, but this is a big head. It shoots outputs 80 gallons a minute and shoots at 120 feet radius. So I can take 50 acres and 50 heads, and I can put out an inch of water, which is 26,000 gallons per acre. That's an inch of water. In a day and a half, and then it shuts down, and I can go 8 to 9 days. I can have something measuring the soil that tells me, well, it's a little dry. Heads pop up, irrigate, pop down. So then all I have to do is make sure I fertilize it, test the soil, and get the lime right and all of that, and then hope my weather's good enough I can get my hay out of the ground, out of the fields.
Man.
But if you can do that, then you can change hay raising. You'll change it. You'll change it for sure.
That's pretty.
Instead of overhead, which is very expensive. This won't be cheap, but it'd be like all things. If let's say I produce on an acre of land now, let's say square bales, I produce 60 to 70 bales. If I have water, that's per cutting, and I have water, I can run that to 100 bales an acre. Or round bales, 2 bales, but I can change that to 3.5 bales an acre, and 400 acres. You do the math.
So what do you do? Most farmers, they're just going to go and look at that and say, if we're at 60 square bales per acre, we can install this device, and as long as that, if we're getting 100 square bales, that offset's going to be 40, and so as long as the 40 more than pays for itself for the device and programs and stuff like that.
Just think if you did this and you could get 4 cuttings, okay? So the way it's done, let's say it's 60 bales, 4 cuttings, 240. But it's 4 cuttings at 100, that's 400 bales. So those extra bales and and they sell good square bale hay $7 to $11 a bale. You figure the math. It'd pay for itself.
Yeah.
Pay for itself.
It'd be one of those things that it may would take a pretty strong initial buy-in to get all this installed, but
yes.
Once you did, but it's no difference between that. Well, it is a difference, but yeah, think like the farmers around here. A lot of them, instead of pumping out of, a river or pumping out of a lake or something like that to water their fields, they're going and they're having natural gas or even electric wells that they can control from their phone, or even not even that. They can just go out there and flip a switch. Poly pipe fills up with water, and it runs, and they'll have cameras or some other monitoring device on the other end of that run, and whenever it gets there, they get an alert, or they can check even a trail camera, we use for deer hunting or whatever, and they'll say, okay, we got water run off here at this flag. I know I need to go shut it off and flip the pipe to the other side and do that.
It's that's reasons maybe AI will come into some of this. I think that sort of thing's exciting. Not only do you improve production, but you may help your atmosphere too, or your environment. Because I've got water on my ranch. I've got lots of water on my ranch. So it doesn't cost me to have the water. That's a big savings.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have to drill for this water, by the way.
Yeah.
We'll take it out of one of my ponds, 9.4 acre pond. It's got millions of gallons of water, and it's all spring fed.
So you ain't got to worry about that thing running low.
It's never run out. Nobody's ever. It used to be when they would come from Eris and other towns down what is now 546, they'd stop there and water their horses, and that area has been known for years and years and years in the past as mineral springs. That whole area out there, there's springs everywhere out there. So that's another advantage of doing what I'm trying to do. Now, if you have to drill a well, I drilled 5 wells for this.
Yeah.
Actually, we drilled 6, and 2 of them are operational. The others were experimental to give us the geological information. And then we have a little small one that's by the plant. We measure the aquifer depth every month. We measure it and record it every month.
Yeah.
So, anything's possible.
That the pond you're talking about, the Mineral Springs pond, is that the one, like if you're leaving here and you're headed out that way, when you take it the right, you got the entrance to your ranch right there on the right. And I've never been out to your place, but I've seen it from the road. But you have the big metal work there. It says it's Kingley's Ranch, and then the pond right past there before you get the tree line has those good lily pads and stuff in it. It looks like there's some monster bass and.
There's been, I think my son-in-law, John Landry, caught a 9-pound or 6-pound bass out of there. I don't fish there, and we can't let anybody but family fish there for insurance purposes, of course. So hadn't really fished. But to show you what the possibility, we've had that. I had Leif Pemberton, which wouldn't ring bells to you, but he's from New Zealand, and if you Google him, he's agribusiness consultant. He's still down there, and he came up here to help the Alabama singers. One of them was building a ranch, so he came to the United States, and I happened to hear about him, and I got in touch with him, and he's come to our ranch twice. And he's helped us to lay our ranch out like they graze in New Zealand. We use New Zealand technique where we have small pastures that we rotate the herds around there. We had 3 big herds that we rotate them around. And we try to leave the ground fallow for so many weeks to break the parasite cycle. That's what we're trying to do. And then if you take that land like that, grazed land raises more hay than non-grazed land because of why? The cow manure.
Yeah, fertilizer.
It's a great fertilizer.
Right.
And that's a cheap way to fertilize. So that was a big thing. And then I had him to look at that pond you're talking about. It's 9.4 acre pond. And he estimated in excess of 960,000 gallons a day. John Sutherland looked at it and said more than 900,000 gallons a day. So I've got water. And so I can irrigate a lot of land. Yeah. And then it gets put back in the soil, or evaporates up in, it becomes rain. So you've helped Mother Nature a little bit. So that's the sort of thing I do. Okay.
Yeah. How many acres you have out there?
850.
Yeah.
850 acres.
It's pretty good bit of ground. I mean, there's ranches that are much bigger, but I mean, for what you're doing, it sounds like you are utilizing every square inch off that place.
Well, we can raise a calf, a mother cow and a calf per acre. Go to West Texas, it's going to take 20 or 30 acres per cow and calf. So yes, if you can raise, cattlemen really are primarily grass growers. And so if we can raise grass, we can raise cattle. So if you do that right, then you can increase your production just because you got good grass for them to eat, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so your 850 acres is operating like a lot of people on 20, 30,000 acre.
Well, whatever, some number,
ranges.
it's a multiple. And, you know, the day of, I grew up in Texas and drove through the King Ranch, 1 million acres, and went to the Chapman Ranch, actually walked on the Chapman Ranch, 600,000 acres. But it's not the same. Now, South Texas, where the King Ranch is, they can grow some pretty good grass because they're getting down where they get the Gulf climate. But when you get to West Texas, Uvalde in that, you know, that's the Western movie type of land. So I think North Louisiana has many things that are really ideal, and we've tried to capitalize on what God has given us. We had dirt pits forever and ever and ever. We have water, and now we're trying to raise hay and cattle. So I'm trying to take advantage of Mother Nature here.
Well, when we had that doctor visit with you 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, I told you one of the things we talked about. I was like, I want to do the podcast, but one thing I really want to do is and I know you've already, people have attempted to do it, and there's been some good work done, but I want to do a documentary on you. Like, I want to do a video where we can come out there to the ranch and film some stuff you're doing, and essentially put on film your story and where it's at now. And especially like once the book, you know, with just updating everything and kind of go and film all that. And I wanted to do that. This conversation has made me want to do that even more.
So we'd love for you to do it. If it helps you, we'd love to do it.
Well, I think it helped the community. Like if anything, people just got joy out of watching it, and something just a good history lesson of everything you've done. And how old are you now?
Huh?
How old are you now?
I'm 85 and a half years old.
85 and a half, and you are kicking and getting as much stuff done as many 20, 30, and 40-year-olds. And so I think being able to go and capture that. And, you wasn't lying when you said you dream big.
Well, I have to admit, have I had failures? Of course I've had failures. But you can't fail unless you try. And I've never been afraid to fail. And the joy, many of the joys is, now I get a lot of credit that I don't even deserve. The ranch really is run by my son, David, who's doing all of this. You know, when I have an idea, he gets to do it. So the success there is really spread broadly. The water plants, you know, Jay, he works hard there, and he designed that bottle. Yeah, I had the idea, but it takes other people to make the ideas come to fruition. And I think when you think about anybody's job, you mentioned how you got here, you had a good mentor. Yeah. You had a good mentor, and I had good mentors. And most people have their parents, if they'll listen to them, are good mentors. And so we really should be pretty humble about any success we have, because I can tell you, if it weren't for my wife and my children, you wouldn't have me here. So there you go. It's not just me. It's a lot of other people.
Well, that's also a testament of leading your family the way that they need to be led.
Yeah.
The way a lot of families need to be led.
Yeah.
That speaks volume.
Well, it's fun to watch your children be successful.
Yeah.
You know, it's really fun.
Yeah.
David got agriculture award for using good techniques in soil conservation and stuff. Well, it's fun to watch them get those awards. And Jay's got an award for new innovations in Northeast Louisiana from West Monroe Chamber of Commerce. We got that award. It's really David. I went up there and accepted the award, but he's the one that really has taken the ball and run with it.
Yeah. Well, Vaughn, you met Vaughn, a 2-year-old little boy, or 2.5. But I don't like watching him go and doing stuff. He's growing up too fast. He finally gets where he'll poop on the potty every now and then. We're going through potty training, so we're trying to get where he'll poop and TT on the potty.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that he feeds himself. I'm like, man, I need you to stay where you are for a little while. So hopefully I got a while before I'm proud of Vaughn for winning agricultural awards.
You will be, but God's got other plans for him.
Look, anybody that's met that little dude, they know.
God's got plans for him.
Yeah, he's a special young man,
absolutely.
and all of them are. That kid, he's incredible.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, I think there's some things going on in the country are not what I like to see, but I think we're so lucky. When I went to Poland and helped set up the heart program in Krakow, Poland in '78 behind the Iron Curtain, and saw how they were living and how communism really works. And I got back to New York, and when I landed, I really did this. I kissed the ground because I was so grateful for being American and having the opportunity. And I think anybody that's born should be given that opportunity. And I don't care who they are, what color they are. They're all human and they're all God's children. And I think we all of us as a group of humans deserve to have the right to achieve whatever we can achieve. And I want people to have that opportunity, and thank God we live in America.
Yeah, a lot of people take advantage of that. If you don't have the perspective or even the experiences like you're talking about going over there and you're helping them with something, but there's a lot of push for a lot of other, governmental changes and left, right, up, down, whatever else.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's a lot of oddball stuff going on, and a lot of people pushing for these oddball things. But you go to some of those places, and the things you're pushing for and the agendas you're pushing for, you see the outcome of that in Poland or wherever else. You just pick any other place. That perspective and experience, that'll change.
Yeah. Well, we had the great fortune, and the founding fathers who were Christian people, who understood what it was to be oppressed, and who were brilliant men, and many of whom ended up bankrupt from the Revolutionary War, to sacrifice everything for us. And I think we owe the next generations the same sort of dedication that our founding fathers gave us. And unfortunately, I saw an interview of a recent author who who apparently is very well known, and he was being interviewed for this book, and he was talking about some of the woes, and he wanted to talk about why they were happening and this, that, and the other. But I might get in trouble for my philosophy, but I think if we take God out of our lives, you're going to reap the whirlwind. And I think that part of this is you could take the 10 Commandments and not have another law. You could live, society could function with those 10 Commandments. So I think that we need to really step back a second, because our founding fathers put in almost everything "In God We Trust."
Yeah. Well, that's what those 10 Commandments were written for.
Huh?
That's what those 10 Commandments were written for.
That's right. All right.
So
it's a great country, and it's worth fighting for, and it's worth standing up and saying, I love my country. I served. I didn't have to go overseas in Vietnam because I was already a doctor. Wouldn't dare let me go. But I at least spent part of my life serving my country. And I would do it again.
Mm.
Even at 85, if they need 2 years of my life, I'll give it to them if I last that long.
sure going to last a lot longer than 2 years.
Yeah, so let's hope so.
It's going to take us 2 years to do the documentary. So.
Oh, well, anyway. Well, I thank you for this opportunity. I really do, and I thank you.
I appreciate you coming on.
I hope when we get the book published, people will take the time to read it.
Yeah.
It's not just about me. It's not just about me. It's got a message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I almost want to take that binder home with me and not give it back for a little while. So you thinking 6 months maybe?
Well, if once you get your publisher, it usually takes 6 to 12 months to get the book out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not easy. This has been a very daunting, I'm used to doing something, take a step and get ready for the next step and, you move it along. This is a much more laborious, tedious process. The literary agents are actually, I don't know how many there are. We have a list of 525 or so of them. But I'm sure it's 4 times that number probably. But the number of books that are published in the United States now is staggering. So I'm sure they're just inundated.
Yeah.
Inundated.
Well, we both know that when you're on your time, not saying good stuff can't come out of it. When you're patient and you really you're just patient and you trust God's plan.
Yeah.
That's his timing's a lot better than ours.
Yeah, and it's a lot of times it's different than our time. So the answer is just be faithful and truthful and go the route.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking for all the fun stuff that we're going to do.
Yeah.
I know getting your 2 boys. I'm ready to get Dave and Jay on here.
Yeah.
Too.
They would love for you to do that. I think
were they excited? Were they excited you getting to come on today?
Well, I don't know that Jay knows I'm here. I'm not sure David knows I'm here because I hadn't. He came by the office that day and I said, "Don't you have time to stop?" And said, "No, Daddy, I'm busy." And he went on his way because it's hay cutting time and they're getting everything ready. But I'm sure they'd love to come on. This has been fun.
Yeah, it has been fun. Well, we've been rolling. I always set my time just to see. We could go for 10 hours or we can go for 10 minutes, wherever the conversation leads us, Yeah. We've been rolling an hour and 15 minutes.
Really?
And it does not take long for that hour and 15 minutes to get eaten up. Well, as soon as we're about to wrap it up, and as soon as you get ready to wrap it up, you're like, man, had all these other things to think about asking. And that's one good thing I told you. You asked what to prepare for or whatever, and I was like, we're just going to go in there and just have a conversation. Yeah. There's no notes. Like, I have things that I'm going to think about, that are interesting to me, but this is a podcast, and this is just, we're going to make a video out of it. This is something where we can just sit down and have good conversation, and wherever it leads, that's where it goes.
Well, that's what I like to do. I mean, just sit down. One of the people that's written something about the book was David Ute. He's over in Florida now. He was head of First West. And he said it's like sitting on the front porch talking with an old friend. It's a lot like that.
Yeah.
A lot like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Hearts and Heifers.
Hearts and Heifers.
Yeah. We got, hopefully sooner rather than later it'll be.
Yeah. Who knows if the book gets published, they can change, if they buy the book, they can change the title, but I'm going to be pretty fierce about the title if they do come and say, yeah, we want the book. Because I think the title has a real mission, real message in it. How in the world do you get Hearts and Heifers on a title?
Big dreams.
Yeah. So, and it must be different. It's like looking at that bottle. It's a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah. It must be different.
It's
so
nice.
I hope it is. Okay.
Well,
we're excited about it.
Yeah, it's all good. Well,
yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to all the fun stuff that you got going on. I'm ready to keep an update. I'm glad we went ahead and got this knocked out, and we'll do several more. And we'll get your boys on here, and
be glad to.
And we can even, if you want to do one with your boys, then we could even go and us 4, we can go out there to your ranch somewhere or wherever was a good spot for y'all. We can go set up and do something.
Yeah, we can do. There are plenty of pretty spots to do it, so we'd let you pick it. And this is the magnificent setup here. I've really enjoyed this. but we'd be available.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, cool. Is there anything else that you wanna tell the people? Is there anything else you want to
No,
say?
I just want to say thank you to you to allow us to talk, and it's really a golden opportunity to express how I really feel. That I have this venue to say how I really feel, and be a part of North Louisiana. I'm really grateful for that. And I love the people, and I want to thank the people for loving me back.
You got a lot of people that love you back.
Yeah,
a whole lot.
They do, and I'm so happy they do.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
Well, good. Well, I'm looking forward to next time we get you on, seeing what all has popped up, what other new dreams, because you know you're going to be into something else. You're going to knock these things out, and you'll be into something else.
We'll see, won't we?
That we will.
We'll see.
Yeah, well, good deal.
See.
Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thank you
Nolan.
for all you've done, and our community, just not even here in West Monroe, just all over. Thank you for being open and transparent.
Well, it's good to be in a place that you could do this. So it takes the right setting sometimes too. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right. Well, King Springs Water. Make sure to check it out. Kingsland Beef. I know you said you gotten away from packaging a little bit.
Well, we're not packaging right now, but and honestly, we might not ever package again, but we'll still have beef though.
Yeah,
if somebody want to come buy a steer, I bet David would sell it to him.
I bet he would too.
I bet he'd sell it to him.
Well, cool. Well, if anything, you can go, and there's so many places here, not even locally, but even Mississippi, places all over. You can pick up some King Springs water.
Yeah.
But there at Spotted Dog, you can go buy it. They have it by the pallets there and sell the absolute dog fire of it. And like I said, we give it away to all of our guests coming on, and I feel bad for the one guest it really matters to give his own water back to is you. I left it at my dang house.
I could have brought you some, so I feel bad about that.
Left it at my dang house. That's all right. Well, look, we'll call it even. How's that sound?
That's great. So, I appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all coming on. I appreciate you coming on. Much. And again, SpottedDogSportingGoods.com. Go check it out. Free shipping on orders of $99 or more. And we're here in May. I mean, it is May right now, this episode. It'll probably be the 1st of June before it comes out. And we don't like long. It's summertime. Fishing is going on. It's wide open. But I can tell you, I'm excited. We just had a newborn, but I'm chomping at the bit to go and head up to Kansas and get some food plots ready and start doing some work up there to bow hunt this fall. Yeah. And I'm looking forward to it, and a lot of other people are. So anything you need, Spotted Dog Sporting Goods, check them out. They are the guys. They got it going on. But thank you for coming on, and I appreciate you guys listening. So, thank you. All right. Bye, everybody.